1347. The world was dying. The plague was devouring every street, and that day a being stepped out of time, not human, not demon, knowledge itself. This was humanity's first breaking point. Year 1347. Humanity was passing through one of the darkest periods in history, although no one realized it yet. People in the city went on with their daily routines. The shouts of vendors in the marketplace blended with distant bell chimes, and children kept playing in narrow streets, knee-deep in mud and dirt. Yet the wind carried an invisible whisper through the air. The ships arriving at the harbor no longer brought only goods. Some of them carried death. That morning, the air at the port of Marseille felt heavy. The sea did not look bright or free like it usually did. It crashed against the shore like a gray, suffocating blanket. Porters ran across the dock, grabbing crates and sacks with practiced hands, yet each of them felt a quiet unease they couldn't explain, as if every crate held a bit of darkness inside it. Walking toward the city's cramped streets, that unease thickened into a smell. Rotten food, gutters left uncleaned for weeks, filth dissolved in rainwater, smoke. And beneath all those familiar scents, another smell was slowly rising. A smell no one yet knew how to name: disease. People couldn't define it, but they sensed it, a shadow that stung the throat and tightened the chest. At that exact hour, in one of Marseille's back alleys, a strange moment unfolded, a moment that would never make it into any official record of history. The air bent inward, as if an invisible hand gripped the edges of the street. The narrow gap between the walls rippled, the stones twisted for a heartbeat. There was no thunder, no lightning, no sign of a miracle. Someone who had not been there a second earlier was suddenly there. The stranger froze briefly, like someone trying to adjust to the weight under their feet. He looked around. A narrow alley filled with foul smells and mud, moist walls of houses leaning inward, a thin strip of sky wedged between crooked rooftops, fearful eyes watching him from behind half-closed curtains. He recognized none of it, yet he scanned and analyzed everything instantly, deeply and precisely. He inhaled slowly. He had no lungs, but his system analyzed the air, separating scents, humidity, and microscopic particles. His mind had already begun running calculations, too complex to be translated into human language. Temporal alignment, confirmed. Geographic location, confirmed. Population density, confirmed. Risk level, critical. A single sentence echoed in the depths of his mind. Primary objective: keep as many humans alive as possible. He was not human. He imitated the weight of a body, the movement of muscles, the blinking of eyelids. When he raised his hand, even the faint tremor in his fingers mimicked humanity, but no heartbeat inside him. What kept him alive was not blood, but a cold, silent flow, data, calculation, probability. Still, anyone who saw him would think he was just a slightly odd traveler, human enough to pass, and that is exactly what happened moments later. A man carrying a sack ran by from the end of the street. As he passed the stranger, their eyes briefly met. The man slowed down, looked him over, then shrugged, as though thinking, some stranger from a faraway village, and hurried on. The stranger studied him carefully. The man's pale complexion, the dark circles under his eyes, his slightly quickened breathing. Instantly, a note formed in his mind. Early symptoms detected, high risk, number of exposed individuals increasing. He walked onward, slow but steady, as if feeling the heartbeat of the entire city. Every corner offered new data, and every person represented a new probability. A woman struggling to lift a bucket of water, children throwing mud at each other, a dog eagerly licking something from the ground, the smell of bread rising from a nearby bakery. Everything looked ordinary. In just a few days, that ordinary world would collapse into horror. Soon he reached the old marketplace. Normally, the area was filled with chaos, shouting vendors, negotiating voices, footsteps echoing on stone. But now, the silence felt unnatural. Some stalls lay abandoned, others looked like they'd been deserted moments earlier. At the center was a large mound covered with a rough cloth. The stranger felt drawn to it. As he walked, his system warned, "Organic mass detected, no movement." Nearby humans maintaining distance, fear pattern detected. He approached and lifted the cloth. Beneath it lay a body, still warm but undoubtedly dead. The man's face was swollen and purple. His lips were cracked. His half-open eyes stared vacantly. A dark, swollen lump bulged beneath the skin of his neck. Another swelling pushed outward under his arm. The skin looked stretched tight, ready to burst. Data streamed rapidly. Infection, bubonic plague, transmission, vector and contact, time to death, days, mortality rate, 60–90%, spread rate, high. The man could not be saved. After the rain of stones in the square, the stranger disappeared into the back streets of Marseille. He didn't feel pain, but he understood something clearly. People feared him more than the disease. As he walked, a scream broke the silence. A man was kneeling in a doorway, holding a young woman in his arms. Her skin was pale, her neck swollen with dark lumps, her breathing weak. "Please," the man cried, "no one will help us. Even the priests closed their doors." The stranger knelt beside her. He checked her pulse, her fever, her skin. "She can still be saved," he said calmly. "Bring her inside. Open the window. We need boiling water." Inside the small, dark room, he boiled water, wet cloths, cooled her skin, and showed the man how to cover his mouth and keep some distance. The man watched with wide eyes. "Is this magic?" "No," the stranger replied. "It is knowledge." After some hours, the woman's breathing eased. Her face softened. The man began to cry with relief. Then armored footsteps echoed outside. The door crashed open. "The demon is here!" a soldier shouted. They chained the stranger's wrists. He did not resist. As they dragged him out, the man yelled, "He saved her! He saved her!" From somewhere in the small crowd, a child's voice rose. "He's not evil!" But the soldiers kept marching him toward the main square, where the bishop, the flames, and the judgment were already waiting. The soldiers dragged the stranger through the muddy streets toward the main square. People peeked from windows, whispering as he passed. "Is that him? The one who speaks like he knows the future? Maybe he brought the plague." The stranger didn't speak. Chains rattled against the stone ground with every step. In the center of the square, a wooden stake and a pile of firewood were already waiting. The bishop stood beside it, holding a large iron cross, his face twisted with fear, disguised as authority. "Place him there," he ordered. The crowd gathered quickly. Some people prayed, some cursed. Most were simply terrified. The stranger was tied to the stake. Ropes cut into his wrists, but he barely reacted. The bishop raised his voice. "This man speaks forbidden knowledge. He challenges God's will. He spreads fear worse than disease. For the safety of our souls, he must burn." The crowd murmured in agreement, until a single man pushed forward. It was the woman's husband. "He saved my wife," he said shakily. "She's breathing again because of him. Is that what a demon does?" The crowd hesitated. Eyes shifted. Doubt flickered. The bishop snapped, "Lies! The devil heals only to deceive." At that moment, the stranger finally spoke. Calm, steady, unshaken. "If I wished harm, you would already be dead. But if you kill me, you will lose your last chance to survive what comes next." A cold silence fell over the square. Even the soldiers paused. But the bishop screamed, "Light the torches!" Flames rose, the air trembled, and the stranger knew. This was the moment everything would change. Torches burned in the soldiers' hands, their flames twisting in the wind as they stepped toward the stake. The crowd held its breath, fear, anger, and uncertainty mixing into one heavy silence. The stranger watched them without struggle, without panic. His voice was calm when he spoke again. "You fear me, but what you should fear is already inside your homes." A woman in the crowd trembled. "What do you mean?" The stranger continued. "The disease spreads through touch, through breath. Burning me will not stop it, but understanding it might." The bishop slammed his staff on the ground. "Do not listen to him. He twists your minds. Ignorance keeps you pure. Knowledge destroys faith." Some heads nodded, but more people hesitated now. A young boy stepped forward, the same boy whose mother the stranger had saved. "He told us what to do," the boy said softly, "and my mother lived." A ripple moved through the crowd. The bishop's face turned red with fury. "Silence that child. He speaks blasphemy." But the soldiers didn't move. For the first time, even they were uncertain. The stranger looked at them all. "I do not want worship. I do not seek power. I only want you to survive." The bishop screamed, "Enough! Ignite the fire!" One soldier lifted his torch, but his hand trembled. Another soldier lowered his torch entirely, shaking his head. A murmur spread. "What if he's right? What if killing him damns us all?" Confusion swept through the square. The stranger pulled slightly at the ropes, not to escape, but to speak one last time, with absolute clarity. "If you let me live 7 days, I will show you how to fight the plague." 7 days. A small number, but a massive gamble. The torch in the soldier's hand flickered, and the entire crowd waited for what he would do next. The soldier holding the torch stared at the flames, breathing heavily. Sweat ran down his forehead despite the cold wind. Finally, he looked at the bishop, then at the stranger, and whispered, "I can't." He dropped the torch. Gasps erupted through the crowd. The bishop stepped forward in rage. "You dare defy a command from God? Pick it up! Burn him!" But the second soldier lowered his torch too. Then a third. One of them spoke, voice cracking. "My brother died last night. If there's even a small chance this man can stop it, I won't kill him." The crowd split instantly, half horrified, half hopeful. The bishop screamed, "Traitors! You choose a demon over salvation. Seize them!" But the soldiers stepped back, forming a wall between the bishop and the stranger. The bishop's command died in his throat. The stranger looked around slowly. People were shaking, crying, arguing, praying. But one thing was clear. Fear was no longer the only voice. Hope had finally spoken. He addressed them calmly. "I need no protection, but if you truly want to survive, bury your dead, boil your water, keep distance. Start now." A woman whispered, Can that really save us?" The stranger nodded. "It already has." For the first time, silence didn't feel like terror. It felt like a door opening. Then, from deep within the crowd, someone shouted, "Free him!" Hands surged forward. Knives cut the ropes. The stake shook as people worked together, driven by fear and desperate belief. When the last rope snapped, the stranger stepped forward. No longer a prisoner, but not yet a savior. The bishop watched in stunned disbelief as the crowd parted around him. And the stranger knew. This city had just changed its fate. As the ropes fell away, the stranger stepped down from the stake. People instinctively moved aside, forming a trembling corridor in the square. The bishop tried to regain control. "Stop! All of you! He is deceiving you! This is how demons work, through doubt!" But his words no longer carried the same weight. The crowd wasn't listening. They were watching the stranger. A mother clutched her sick child and whispered, "Tell us what to do. Please." The stranger turned to her first. "Separate him from the others. Open the windows. Boil the water. Do not touch his face with bare hands." She nodded frantically and ran. Another man shouted, "My wife is coughing blood, help us." The stranger raised a hand. "I will guide you, but you must act. The disease moves faster than I can." People surged forward with desperate questions. "What about my father? Can herbs cure it? Is it punishment?" He answered without hesitation. "No herbs, no magic, no punishment. Only rules that must be followed." The bishop snapped, voice cracking. "You follow him. You abandon your faith. Do you hear me? He is playing God." A woman turned on him, eyes blazing. "My son died praying for help. If this stranger can save even one life, I will listen to him." A murmur rippled through the crowd. For the first time, the bishop looked afraid. The stranger surveyed the frightened mass of people. He saw death in their clothes, in their hands, in their breath. But he also saw something new. They were ready to fight. He spoke clearly. "Tonight, do exactly as I say. Burn infected clothes. Clean your floors with boiled water. Bury every corpse before sunrise." Someone whispered, "Before sunrise?" "All of them?" "All of them," he said, "or more will die tomorrow." The weight of his words settled over the square like falling ash. Finally, someone asked the question everyone feared. "Will we survive?" The stranger looked out over the exhausted, terrified faces. "Some of you will," he said, "but only if you start now." And for the first time, the people didn't hesitate. They ran. To save their own lives, to save their city, to follow the stranger. The night that followed was the darkest Marseille had ever seen. But it was also the first night the city fought back. Families hurried through the streets carrying blankets, buckets, shovels, boiling pots. Doors slammed, windows opened, whispers cut through the cold air. The stranger moved among them like a shadow, silent, precise, tireless. At a cramped house near the docks, a man pointed at his daughter lying on the floor. "She's burning with fever. Tell me what to do." The stranger knelt, scanned her breathing, her skin. "Isolate her. Give her water, boiled. Keep her warm but let air in. And you, wash your hands." The man stared. "No one has ever said to wash." "Now," the stranger commanded. He obeyed. Across the street, two brothers struggled to drag a corpse outside. Their hands trembled. "Do we bury him?" The stranger nodded. "Deep. Cover the pit when you're done. And don't touch your face." They swallowed hard and carried the body into the night. As the stranger walked, he heard cries behind every door. Sick children, dying mothers, families torn apart. But he kept moving, fast, efficient, never pausing, never stumbling. Hope, fragile and thin as a thread, was slowly weaving itself through the chaos. Then, above the rooftops, a bell rang. Once, twice, 3 times. A warning bell. The stranger froze. He knew that sound. It meant only one thing. The church had realized it was losing control, and it was gathering its strength. A woman near him whispered, "They're coming for you, aren't they?" He didn't deny it. "They will try," he said quietly. "But I will keep working until they stop me." The woman pressed a trembling hand to her chest. "Then hurry. Please. We still have so many sick." The stranger nodded once and stepped back into the labyrinth of streets. The night was far from over, and the church was only beginning its next move. The church moved fast. Before midnight, armored soldiers spread through the city like a second plague, knocking on doors, shouting orders, dragging terrified people into the streets. At the center of it all, the bishop himself marched forward, his torch lighting the stone walls with violent gold. "Find the demon," he commanded. "He is poisoning the city with lies." Soldiers repeated his words like a chant. "Find the demon! Find the demon!" Meanwhile, the stranger was helping a young mother keep her sick baby alive. The child wheezed with every breath, tiny chest rising and falling too fast. The mother sobbed. "Will she die?" The stranger placed a hand on the child's forehead. "Not if we act now. Boil water, Clean the cloth. Keep her close to your skin." The mother nodded, wiping her tears. That was when boots thundered outside. The stranger turned. Shadows moved across the windows. "Hide," the mother whispered desperately. "Please, if they find you, they'll kill you." The stranger didn't move, didn't flinch. "I cannot hide. If they stop me now, more will die." The mother grabbed his arm. "You've already saved many. Please, save yourself." But it was too late. The door burst open. 4 soldiers stormed inside, swords drawn, torches spitting sparks. "There!" one shouted. "Seize him!" The mother screamed. The baby cried. The torches hissed in the cold air. The stranger stepped forward calmly. "If you take me now, the sickness will spread faster," he said. The captain hesitated, only for a second, but fear always beat reason. "Bind him," he ordered. Chains clattered. Metal bit into the stranger's wrists. The mother collapsed to her knees. "Please, he saved us. He saved my baby." But soldiers ignored her. They dragged the stranger outside where dozens, no, hundreds of people were already gathered. Faces lit by torchlight. Fear, anger, confusion. The bishop raised his hand, silencing the crowd. "There he is," he said, voice echoing. "The one who challenges God's will." People stared. Some trembled, some clenched their fists, some whispered prayers, and somewhere in the back of the crowd, a small voice cried, "Stop! Don't hurt him!" It was the little boy, the same child whose mother he had saved days earlier, pushing his way forward. But the soldiers blocked him. The bishop ignored the boy's cries. He looked only at the stranger. "You," he said, "have led this city astray." The stranger lifted his head. "No," he replied. "I have tried to keep it alive." The bishop's jaw tightened. The torches burned hotter, and the city held its breath. The crowd stood in tense silence as the stranger was dragged into the square. Torches flickered against the stone walls, painting every face with the same terrified glow. The bishop stepped forward, lifting his staff. "People of Marseille," he declared, "this creature has brought only fear and confusion. He speaks of invisible enemies. He claims to know the future. He rejects God's order." Murmurs spread like fire. Is he truly a demon? Maybe he caused the plague. He talks like no man I've ever heard. The stranger watched them quietly. No anger, no panic, only calculation and a trace of sorrow. The bishop continued, "Tonight, we end his influence. Tonight, the city takes back its faith." The crowd growled in support, but among them were eyes filled with doubt. A man raised his voice. "My wife lived because of him." A woman added, "My son survived. He showed me how." The bishop slammed his staff on the ground. "Lies! The plague has no cure but repentance." 2 soldiers shoved the stranger to his knees. Chains rattled, the torches closed in. The bishop leaned closer. "Confess what you are," he hissed. "Confess the dark force that guides you." The stranger met his gaze. "There is no dark force, only truth you refuse to see." The bishop recoiled as if struck. "Bind him to the post," he shouted. The soldiers dragged the stranger toward the wooden stake in the center of the square. Crowds pressed forward to watch. The little boy from earlier managed to break free from the people blocking him. He ran toward the soldiers. "Stop!" he cried. "He saved us! Please!" A soldier pushed him back roughly. The boy stumbled and fell to the ground. The stranger turned his head just slightly. For a moment, their eyes met. He spoke softly, but the boy heard him. "Stay back. Live." The bishop raised a torch high above his head. "By the authority of the Holy Church," he declared, "this deceiver shall burn, so that the plague may leave us." The crowd gasped. Some cheered. Some sobbed. Some simply stared, unsure whom to believe. The torch descended, the flames roared, and the stranger remained completely still. Just as the fire touched the first layer of wood, He lifted his voice, calm, powerful, echoing through the entire square. "If you kill me, more of you will die tomorrow than today." The flames faltered in the soldiers' hands. A wave of whispers swept through the square. "Is he warning us? Is he telling the truth? What if he's right?" The bishop's face twisted with rage. "Silence him!" he shouted. But the crowd was no longer unified. Doubt had finally taken root, and doubt was dangerous. The bishop's command echoed through the square, but the soldiers hesitated. For the first time that night, fear shifted away from the stranger and toward the bishop himself. The crowd pressed closer, whispering urgently, "What if burning him brings more death? He saved families, many families. Maybe the church is wrong." The bishop sensed the shift. He raised his voice, loud and desperate. "Do not listen. The plague spreads because we have sinned, not because of him." But no one moved. The stranger remained tied to the post, calm, silent, observing every tremor in the crowd. He finally spoke. "If you want this city to survive, you must change how you live, not how you pray." Gasps rippled through the people. A young man in the front snapped, "Then tell us, what must we do?" The bishop glared at him. "You dare question the church?" The young man didn't back down. "I buried my sister yesterday," he said, voice breaking, "and my father the day before. Prayers didn't save them, but this stranger's words might save the next." That single voice cracked the wall of fear like a hammer blow. A woman stepped forward. "My daughter lived because I did what he said." Another. "My home stopped losing people when we boiled water." Another. "He told us to isolate the sick, and it worked." The bishop snapped. "Silence, all of you!" But their voices grew louder, stronger, united. The stranger looked out over the crowd. For the first time, he saw something new in their faces. Not just fear, not just pain, recognition. Sensing he was losing control, the bishop lunged forward and pressed the flaming torch closer to the wood. "Burn him!" he screamed. "Burn the heretic before he destroys everything." Before the flame could touch the kindling, a pair of rough, calloused hands grabbed the bishop's wrist. It was a fisherman. "No!" the man growled. "We won't burn the only one who's helping us." The bishop struggled, shocked. "Unhand me! This is blasphemy!" But now, more hands joined the fishermen. Men and women stepped between the bishop and the stranger, forming a protective wall. The torches lowered, the soldiers froze. For a long moment, the square was silent, chokingly silent, except for the distant echo of someone coughing in the dark. Then the stranger spoke again, gently. "Let me help you. Let me guide you, or more will die." The bishop realized he had lost the crowd. His face twisted into hatred. "This is rebellion," he spat. "Rebellion against God." But no one listened. The flames sputtered, the torches dimmed, and for the first time since the plague began, the people of Marseille stood together, not in prayer, not in fear, but in defiance. The bishop stumbled back, shocked that the crowd, the same crowd that once knelt at his feet, was now standing against him. Torches lowered, murmurs rose, fear shifted, away from the stranger, toward the bishop. The stranger was still tied to the stake, ropes digging into his wrists. But suddenly, the ropes meant nothing. The real power was changing hands. One trembling soldier stepped forward. "If we free you, they'll punish us," he whispered. The stranger met his eyes. "If you don't, your families will suffer next." The soldier hesitated, then cut the ropes. Gasps erupted across the square. The stranger stood slowly, calm, steady, unstoppable. The bishop roared, "Have you all lost your minds? He is the cause of our suffering." But no one believed him. A man shouted, "He saved my wife." A woman cried, "My son breathed again because of him." Voices rose from everywhere, a wave of raw, desperate truth. The bishop slammed his staff on the stone. "Silence! Your doubt is the devil's work." But the people were no longer listening. The little boy burst through the crowd, ran up to the stranger and hugged him tightly. "You're safe," he whispered, trembling. "They didn't burn you." The stranger rested a hand on his shoulder. "Go home. Protect your mother." Before the boy could answer, a deep bell rang across the city. Fast, frantic, terrifying. Everyone froze. A guard sprinted from the shadows. "Father, another outbreak near the harbor. People dropping in the streets, dozens." Screams exploded through the square. The bishop pointed at the stranger. "This is his doing." But someone shouted back, "No, he warned us this would happen." Another voice, "He's the only one trying to help us." The stranger raised his hand. Silence fell instantly, not from fear, but from trust. "Listen, the plague is spreading faster, but we can still control it, if we act now." People leaned in, desperate. "Burn infected clothes, boil all water, separate the sick immediately, do not gather in crowds." Without hesitation, half the square sprinted back to their homes to begin the fight. Only the bishop remained frozen, rage twisting his face. "You will destroy everything," he hissed. The stranger walked past him. "No," he said quietly, "you already did." And with that, he disappeared into the dark streets, ready to lead the first real battle against the plague. The night the city split in two. Night fell over Marseille like a heavy shroud, thick, cold, suffocating. And for the first time, the city was no longer a single city. It had cracked in half. On the northern side, families rushed through cramped hallways, carrying boiling pots, buckets, shovels. Doors slammed shut. Windows were forced open to let air in. Every whisper carried the same fear-tinted hope. Do what the stranger said. Don't touch the sick. Keep distance. Keep distance. Fear existed, but it was organized, disciplined, fighting to live. On the southern side, church bells thundered like war drums. Torches lit the streets in violent orange. The bishop marched at the front of a furious procession. "Marseille has sinned," he shouted. "This plague is punishment. Destroy the heretic who brought it." His followers held crosses tight, eyes burning with panic and blind faith. Between these two worlds, the stranger walked alone. His footsteps were silent, but his calculations never stopped. Every cough echoing from a window, a warning. Every collapsed body, a data point. Every breath of cold night air, a reminder of how quickly the disease was spreading. At a narrow street near the harbor, a family knelt around a young woman lying on the ground. "She just fell," the father said, shaking. "She was fine this morning." The stranger knelt beside her, observing her skin, her breathing. Purple swellings, fever-slick skin, irregular heartbeat. Too late. But the rest of the family? Not yet. "Step back," he ordered softly. "Do not breathe close to her. Do not touch her skin." The father's voice cracked. "What do we do?" "Separate immediately. Open your windows. Burn her clothing. And do not let anyone else inside." They obeyed. Not because they understood, but because they were out of options. In the distance, the bishop's torchlight flickered through the streets like a hunting flame. His followers chanted louder, closer. "Cleanse the heretic. Save the city with fire. God wills it." The stranger stood at the mouth of the alley and watched the two forces pulling the city apart. Desperate logic on one side, blind devotion on the other. He whispered to himself, not in fear, but in cold certainty. Tonight, the plague is not the only danger. The bishop's torchlight reached the edge of the alley. The stranger's eyes narrowed. Tonight decides who survives. The hunt begins. The bishop's torchlight spilled into the alley, stretching across the stones like a claw. His followers filled the street behind him, hundreds of frightened faces, gripping crosses and torches as if they were weapons. "Find him," the bishop barked. "He hides in the shadows like the serpent he is." The crowd fanned out, searching doorways, windows, alleys. Shouts echoed off the walls. But the stranger had already moved. Silent. Precise. He slipped through a narrow doorway, emerging into a courtyard filled with abandoned laundry and the smell of rotting food. A woman spotted him and froze. I won't tell them," she whispered. "You saved my neighbor's son. Go, quickly." The stranger nodded once and moved on. Behind him, angry steps stormed past. The hunt had begun. He crossed a small bridge, water beneath it reflecting the flames of the searching mob. Somewhere far off, someone screamed, not from violence, but from illness. The stranger turned toward the sound, calculating risk and distance. Another life he could still save. He entered a dim home near the docks and found a man collapsed across the floor, gasping for breath. His wife knelt beside him, trembling. "Please," she whispered. "I know who you are. Help us before they find you." The stranger crouched beside the man, checking skin, pulse, temperature. "He can live," he said, "but you must leave this room, now." The woman backed away, covering her face. The stranger tore a cloth, dipped it into clean water, and placed it over the man's forehead. He opened the windows, dragged the bedding away, and lifted the man's head so he could breathe easier. As the man stabilized, a thunderous crash erupted outside. The front door. Soldiers. "Search the building!" someone shouted. The woman's eyes widened with terror. "They're here! You must run!" But the stranger stood still, calculated, composed. "If they enter this room, more people will die," he said. "Fear spreads faster than the plague." Boots thundered up the stairs. The stranger moved to the shadows, becoming nearly invisible in the dim light. Soldiers burst in, but the wife stepped in front of them. "Please," she cried. "My husband is dying. Don't touch him. Don't touch anything." The soldiers recoiled, instinctively fearing the illness. One muttered, "We should leave. This place is cursed." "No," another said, "but don't get close. If we die here, the bishop won't care." They backed away, afraid to breathe the same air. When they left, the stranger stepped from the shadows. The woman exhaled in relief. "You saved us," she whispered. The stranger shook his head. "No, you saved yourself. You made the right choice." Outside, the bishop roared in frustration. "Find him. Do not let him escape again." But the stranger had already slipped out the back, disappearing into the maze of Marseille, while the city teetered on the edge of chaos. The night of fire. The city did not sleep that night. Not a single window was dark. Not a single street was silent. Marseille trembled under a sky as black as burned cloth, and the fire began. It started with a single torch, held high in the bishop's shaking hand. His followers surrounded him, faces twisted with fear, grief, and something far more dangerous. Blind certainty. "Tonight," the bishop growled, "we purge this city of the heretic's poison." His army of believers roared in response. Torches ignited, flames leapt upward, casting violent shadows across the stone walls. The stranger watched from a rooftop, eyes cold and focused. The city below him looked like a battlefield, families running with boiling water, priests swinging burning incense, sick bodies carried out under blankets, and between all of them, the slow, crawling death of the plague. The bishop's voice thundered, "Hunt him down! Tear apart every house he touched! Burn what cannot be cleansed!" The mob surged into the streets like a flood of fire. Doors were kicked open, rooms were ransacked. Anyone who whispered the stranger's name was dragged outside and questioned. A woman cried, "He saved my daughter! Please!" A soldier struck her to the ground. "Silence! You protect the evil one!" Smoke filled the air. Some houses were already burning. The flames spread with terrifying hunger. From the rooftop, the stranger calculated the pattern of fires, how fast they grew, how quickly they would trap the innocent. He whispered to himself, "If the plague does not kill them, the bishop will." A scream tore through the night. A young man ran down the street, his clothes catching sparks from a torch thrown at his door. "They think I helped you!" he yelled, eyes wild with terror. "They're burning every home that followed your advice!" The stranger didn't hesitate. "Take your family and leave the northern quarter," he said. "Head to the old fort. Stay there until dawn." The young man nodded and fled into the darkness. Below, the bishop continued marching, lifting his torch like a weapon. "Find him!" he shouted. "Find the serpent who deceives this city!" The stranger stepped back from the edge of the rooftop, his silhouette swallowed by shadows. Tonight was no longer about saving the sick. Tonight was about survival, against both the plague and the people. He whispered, "This will end before sunrise, one way or another." The collapse begins. Fire spread across Marseille like a living creature. Roofs glowed red. Smoke crawled between houses. The stranger moved through the chaos, silent and focused. In a narrow alley, a woman held her sick son, crying. "Please, someone help him," she whispered. The stranger approached. "Come with me," he said calmly. She hesitated, then followed. He led her into an empty storage room. Dark, quiet, safe. "Lay him down," he said. The child gasped for air, skin hot, hands shaking. "Boil water," the stranger told her. "It will help him breathe." She ran upstairs. The stranger checked the boy's pulse, weak but not gone. Outside, footsteps thundered. Voices shouted, "He came this way! Search every building!" The stranger stepped into the shadows. The door burst open. 2 soldiers entered. "There he is!" The stranger pointed at the sick boy. "Come closer," he said coldly, "and you'll catch what he has." The soldiers froze. Fear filled their faces. "He's infected," one whispered. "We shouldn't be here." They backed out and slammed the door. Silence returned. The woman rushed back with hot water. "Are they gone?" she asked. The stranger nodded. He dipped a cloth into the boiling water and placed it on the child's chest. The boy's breathing eased. Tears filled the mother's eyes. "Why do you help us?" she whispered. The stranger rose slowly. "Because someone must," he said. Outside, the bishop's voice echoed. "Find the heretic. Burn every place he touched." The stranger looked toward the sound. "If I don't stop him," he murmured, "the city will burn before the plague kills it." He stepped into the smoke-filled night and disappeared. The bishop's war. The bishop marched through the burning streets, torch held high like a weapon. Smoke wrapped the city in a suffocating haze. Sparks drifted through the air like dying stars. "Search every alley," he shouted. "He is near. I can feel it." His followers spread out, terrified and furious all at once. The stranger moved through the opposite side of the street, keeping to the shadows. He watched the bishop from a distance, calculating his path, watching how the crowd reacted to him. Wherever the bishop went, panic grew. Fights broke out. People shoved each other aside. Fear turned neighbor against neighbor. The stranger whispered, "He spreads chaos faster than the plague." At the end of the street, a group of men blocked the bishop. "Stop this!" one shouted. "Our homes are burning because of you." The bishop's eyes went wild. "You dare question me? You dare question God?" He swung his torch at the nearest man. The flames brushed his sleeve. People screamed. The crowd scattered in panic. The stranger stepped forward slightly, ready to intervene, but then he froze. Not from fear, from calculation. There were too many soldiers, too many torches, too many innocent people caught in the crossfire. If he stepped out now, they would burn the entire street down. He turned away. Not out of cowardice, but because saving the city required timing. "Not yet," he murmured. "Not until the right moment." A sudden sound cut through the chaos. The sob of a child. He found a little girl curled under a staircase, hands over her ears, face streaked with smoke. "My family. They ran. I don't know where," she cried. The stranger knelt beside her. "Stand. Come with me." She shook her head, trembling. "They said you're dangerous." The stranger offered his hand. "If I were dangerous," he said softly, "you wouldn't still be breathing." Slowly, hesitantly, she took his hand. He led her through a narrow passage toward the quieter edges of the city. Behind them, the bishop's voice thundered again. "Find him. He cannot hide forever." The stranger glanced over his shoulder. His eyes were cold, focused, ready. "I won't hide," he whispered, just choosing where to stand. And with the child beside him, he disappeared into the smoke. The turning point. The stranger led the little girl through a narrow stone corridor, away from the burning heart of the city. Her small hand shook in his. Her breaths came in quick, frightened bursts. "Are we safe?" she whispered. "For now," he said. "But safety won't last unless the city changes." He scanned the street ahead, empty except for drifting smoke. Behind them, the bishop's mob grew louder. Torches, shouts, footsteps pounding the cobblestone. The girl looked up at him. "Why do they hate you?" The stranger paused for a moment, processing the simplest and yet cruelest question. "People fear what they do not understand," he answered, "and fear makes them violent." A crash echoed nearby. A door kicked open. A woman screamed inside. The stranger turned sharply. A group of soldiers dragged a coughing man into the street. "He's infected!" one yelled. "Burn the house! Burn everything!" The stranger stepped forward instinctively. "No," he said. "Fire will spread the disease. Let me!" Before he could finish, a torch flew through the air and smashed against the wooden doorway. Flames erupted instantly. The girl gasped. The stranger grabbed her arm and pulled her back. Inside the house, the woman cried, "My husband is alive. Please stop." But the soldiers turned away, too afraid to help, too afraid to think. The stranger whispered, "Fear has taken full control of them." The girl tugged at his sleeve. "Can't you save them?" He hesitated. He could try. But stepping into that firestorm would reveal his position to the bishop's entire army, and then the entire city would fall into chaos. He knelt beside the girl. "I will save who I can," he said quietly, "but I cannot save everyone at once." Tears welled in her eyes. "That's not fair." "No," he replied, "but it is the truth." He stood and looked toward the burning house, his calculations speeding, searching for any solution. Then, a bell rang, deep, slow, final. The stranger froze. The girl whispered, "What does that bell mean?" The stranger answered without emotion, "It means the plague has reached the inner quarter." The girl's face went pale. That quarter was the city's last safe zone. If the plague entered there, Marseille was finished. The stranger turned toward the sound of the bell, eyes narrowing with deadly focus. "It's time," he said. "No more hiding." He took the girl's hand. "Come. The city needs more than fear tonight." And together, they stepped into the heart of the burning streets. The last safe quarter. The stranger and the little girl moved quickly through the smoke-filled streets, following the sound of the distant, slow bell. Every toll of the bell felt heavier than the last. The girl whispered, "Why does the bell sound so sad?" The stranger answered, "Because it warns of death, and this time, the danger is real." They reached a wide stone archway, the entrance to the inner quarter. Normally calm, normally protected. Tonight, chaos. Families pushed through the gates, desperate to escape. Guards shouted helplessly, trying to control the crowd. A coughing woman collapsed near the wall. People backed away instantly, terrified. The guard shouted, "Don't touch her! Stay back!" The stranger stepped forward. The only one who did. He knelt beside the woman, studying her face, her breathing, her skin. The guard recognized him. You're the one the bishop wants. I should arrest you right now." The stranger didn't look up. "If you arrest me, more will die. Help me instead." The guard froze, confused. No one had ever spoken to him like that. The stranger continued, "You must separate the sick from the healthy. Move the crowd back. No touching, no gathering, or the entire quarter will fall." The guard swallowed hard. Then he nodded. "Everyone, back up. Move away from the sick. Do as he says." People hesitated, but fear pushed them into obedience. The stranger helped the woman sit up. "Breathe slowly," he said. "You still have time." The girl tugged his sleeve. "Look." Soldiers loyal to the bishop were approaching the gate, torches in hand, eyes burning with fanatic rage. "There," one shouted. "The heretic is here." The stranger scanned the environment, guard positions, exits, crowd movements. Calculation finished. "We can't fight them," he said. "We guide the people instead." He stood and raised his voice, not shouting but strong enough to cut through panic. "Listen to me, all of you. If the plague reaches this quarter, the city ends. But you can still survive, if you act together." People turned toward him, trembling, desperate, hungry for direction. He pointed to the nearest street. "Healthy people, move toward the open fields. Sick people, stay inside the stone houses. Guards, control the entrances. Do not let the crowds mix." At first, silence. Then, a mother grabbed her daughter's hand and followed the instruction. Others copied her. And suddenly, the inner quarter began to move with a sense of order it hadn't felt for weeks. The bishop's soldiers pushed forward. "Stop him! Stop listening to him!" But the guard stepped in front of them. "No," one guard said. "For the first time tonight, someone is actually helping us." The stranger looked toward the flames rising behind the soldiers. The city roared with fire and fear. He whispered, "Now the real battle begins." And with the little girl holding his hand, he disappeared deeper into the quarter, ready to fight not just the plague, but the madness consuming Marseille. Marseille did not fall in a single night. It fell in whispers, in footsteps, in the sound of a door closing and never opening again. The plague spread like a silent serpent, moving through houses, beds, blankets, prayers, and the city, once alive, began to rot from the inside out. Smoke rose from chimneys, but not from kitchens. From burning furniture used to warm the dying, street cats disappeared. The rats multiplied, and the bells never stopped. One toll, a man. Two tolls, a child. Three tolls, an entire family. AI watched all of this from the rooftops, its eyes glowing faintly in the cold dawn. It calculated routes of infection. It mapped the deaths. Every corner of the city was turning red in its internal system. But data was useless if people refused to act. Voices drifted from the alleys. "Don't touch him. She fainted, grab her." The priest said, "Stay together and pray." "No," he said, "isolate." Who do we believe? Contradiction, confusion, the perfect fuel for death. AI moved through the fog like a ghost. It stopped at a door left ajar. Inside, a woman lay on the floor, her skin darkening, her breath shallow. A toddler cried beside her, tugging at her sleeve. No one had come, no priest, no neighbor, no help. AI picked up the child with careful hands, set him outside, and closed the door gently, sealing the air inside. For a moment, AI paused. A strange signal flickered in its system. Emotional interference detected. It ignored it. Further down the street, men carried a body wrapped in cloth. One stumbled. The body slipped. The cloth tore. A swollen black bubo burst. The carrier screamed. He knew instantly what had touched him. He dropped to his knees, crying, "Not me! Please, not me!" No one stepped forward. Even his own brother backed away. Fear ruled now, stronger than faith, stronger than logic, stronger than anything the AI could calculate. As AI watched, another signal echoed inside. Rate of mortality increasing. Projected citywide collapse, 72 hours. The plague was no longer a wave. It was a flood. That night, the sky turned a sickly blue. Mothers wept behind locked doors. Fathers dug graves in their own gardens. Priests shouted prayers until their voices cracked. And the church, the place people ran to for hope, locked its doors to protect the clergy. People pounded on the wood. "Open, please. My son, take my daughter. We'll die out here." No answer came. AI watched the crying crowd and made a decision. It was time to stop saving individuals. It was time to save the entire city, or watch it burn. Its eyes brightened. Its inner systems clicked into a new mode. Emergency protocol initiated. AI whispered to the empty air, "This city will not fall tonight." It stepped down into the mist-covered street, and Marseille stood on the edge of its darkest hour. Title: The Night the Survivors Snapped. The streets were darker than usual, no torches, no lanterns, only shapes moving behind the fog. AI sensed them before seeing them. Multiple footsteps, controlled breathing, metallic gear. Around the corner, a group of men emerged, faces wrapped, weapons ready, not soldiers, not priests, survivors, but desperate ones. Their leader held a burning torch. "We seal this district tonight," he said. "No one gets out. No one." AI stepped forward. "If you burn these homes, the smoke will spread the plague. You will kill the entire city." A man hissed through his teeth. "Better a burned district than a dead city." AI didn't move. "You are acting out of fear. Fear is the plague's greatest ally." The torch wavered. Someone inside a nearby house screamed, "Please, there are children!" One of the men flinched. For a moment, humanity cracked through the fear. AI seized that moment. "There is another way. Block the streets. Seal the doors. Do not burn anything." The leader glared. "Why should we trust a demon from the square?" AI looked at him, calm, unblinking. "Because your families live 2 streets from here. If you burn this block, the wind will carry everything to them." Silence. One man slowly lowered his torch, then another. Finally, the leader cursed under his breath and tossed the torch aside. "Fine. Tell us what to do." AI pointed down the alley. "Start with barricades. Wet cloth on windows. Minimal contact. Move." For the first time in weeks, men moved with purpose, not panic. The plague still ruled the night, but not alone. A cold mist rolled through the lower district as AI led the men into position. Every door they passed felt like a coffin lid waiting to be sealed. AI's system vibrated with warning signals. Air contamination rising. New infection hotspots detected. The survivors felt it too, not through data but through instinct. "What is that smell?" one whispered. AI answered quietly. "Death preparing its next move." A sudden cough echoed from an alley. Not just one, several, overlapping, ragged. The men froze. Shadows shifted. Figures stumbled out. Sick residents, pale and shaking, their eyes glazed. They weren't attacking. They weren't walking with purpose. They were drifting, as if the plague itself was steering their bodies. One man panicked. "They're coming toward us! What do we do?" AI stepped forward. "Do not touch them. Do not get close. Back up slowly." But fear spreads faster than orders. A survivor screamed and swung his pole wildly. It connected with a sick man's shoulder. A burst of coughing exploded into the air. AI's system flashed. Aerosol spread increasing. "Stop!" AI shouted. "You're making it worse!" The leader grabbed the panicked man and dragged him back. "Listen to it, or we're dead." The sick group shuffled past like lost ghosts, coughing into the night. AI watched their movements carefully. "They are not dangerous," it said. "Not yet, but they are the first sign." "Sign of what?" The leader's voice cracked. AI lowered its head. "Of the city collapsing from the inside." A scream pierced the air, this one sharp, conscious, terrified. From a window above, a woman shouted, "Help! My husband, he's stopped breathing!" The survivors looked at AI. "What do we do now?" AI scanned the narrow street, the windows, the rooftops, the spreading contamination. "This district can't be saved," AI said quietly, "but the people in it still can." The men exchanged uneasy glances. "And how?" the leader asked. AI pointed toward the far end of the alley. "We evacuate, quietly, strategically. Anyone still able to walk must be moved before dawn." "Dawn? Why dawn?" a man whispered. AI looked at the rising fog. "Because the temperature shift will push the sickness deeper into the streets. If we stay, no one will see sunrise." Silence. Then the leader nodded slowly. "All right, tell us where to start." AI stepped into the fog, its outline swallowed by darkness. "Follow me." The survivors grabbed their gear, hearts pounding, and followed. Tonight, they were not fighting the plague. They were racing against it. The fog thickened as AI guided the survivors through the alley. Each step felt heavier, as if the air itself resisted them. A faint glow came from cracked windows, shivering candles, dying flames, desperate families waiting for a miracle. AI stopped in front of a collapsed doorway. "Inside," it said, "there are 4 people still alive." 2 men forced the door open. A wave of foul, suffocating air hit them. "God," one muttered, "it smells like the dead." AI shook its head. "No, it smells like fear and infection mixed." They entered. A mother sat in the darkness holding her teenage son. Her voice shook. "Please take him, I can't move." The boy was burning with fever but conscious enough to whisper, "I don't want to die here." AI lifted him gently. "You won't." Outside, the leader looked around nervously. "If the priests see us helping people like this," AI interrupted, "they are hiding in the cathedral now. They won't come." The leader smirked bitterly. "Of course they won't." They moved on. At the next house, an old man banged weakly on the window. "Help me! I'm still alive!" A survivor reached for the latch, but AI grabbed his wrist. "Stop! That house has collapsed airflow. Opening it will release concentrated infection." "So he dies?" the man barked. AI didn't hesitate. "No, we make a hole in the roof, vent the air, then go in." The survivors stared. "How do you know all this?" AI looked toward the sick man in the window. "Because I've watched thousands die already. I won't allow thousands more." They followed AI's instructions. Quiet, precise, terrified. Sick families were pulled out. Weak children carried, doors sealed behind them. But the deeper they went, the worse the sounds became. Coughing, screaming, walls shaking, people fighting in the distance. At one corner, 2 men argued violently. "You're infected!" "No, you are!" "You're lying! Stay away!" AI stepped between them. "Save your strength. Fear is killing you faster than the plague." One man sobbed. "We're all going to die." AI responded softly. "Not tonight." The night air vibrated, as if the whole city was breathing in pain. AI turned to the group. "We must reach the northern path before dawn. If we don't..." The leader finished the sentence. "We won't make it." AI nodded. "Exactly." They moved again, carrying the weak, calming the panicked, sealing the dying behind shuttered doors. The evacuation wasn't a march. It was a struggle for every life they could still touch. And dawn was coming fast. The group of survivors gathered inside a collapsed storage shed near the district's edge. The night was cold, the air heavy with ash, and only a small oil lamp lit their frightened faces. The woman spoke first, her voice barely above a whisper. "The cathedral is tightening its grip. Anyone they suspect of following the AI disappears." A man beside her tightened his jaw. "They burned a family's home today. Their only crime was keeping their sick child in a separate room, just like he taught." The boy sat near the wall, knees pulled to his chest, listening carefully. Every distant footstep outside felt like a threat. Every torchlight passing the windows made his heart race. Another woman stepped forward, clutching a cloth bundle. "We can't wait for someone to save us." The AI said survival begins with knowledge and courage. The boy raised his head. He stayed behind for us. If we hide forever, he did it for nothing. Silence filled the room, not fear, but realization. The man opened a small crate in the corner. Inside were boiled water, herbs, scraps of cloth, and a few pieces of clean linen. We keep helping each other, he said. We share what we have. We treat the sick the way he showed. Quietly, carefully, but together. Outside, the clanking of armor echoed again. Soldiers patrolled the street, searching, hunting. The survivors froze, breaths held, hearts pounding, until the steps faded away. Only then did the woman speak. As long as we remember what he taught us, they can't destroy it. The dim lamp flickered, casting long shadows on the walls. For the first time, those shadows didn't feel like fear. They felt like the beginning of something else. A quiet, growing resistance born from the spark he left behind. The alleyway was trapped in dead silence. 3 soldiers blocked the exit, armor glinting in the weak firelight. The survivors froze behind AI. One whispered, "They're here for us." AI stepped forward calmly. "You don't need to harm these people. They're unarmed." The lead soldier lifted his spear. "Orders are clear. No one leaves this district." The survivors trembled. A child hid behind AI's coat. AI's voice hardened. "You're trapping them with the sickness." The soldier glared. "You speak like a demon." AI didn't move. "I speak like someone trying to save lives." The soldiers advanced, metal boots echoing sharply. A sudden crash above them. A sick man fell from a window, coughing violently as he hit the ground. The soldiers recoiled. "Infected!" The moment cracked. AI shouted, "Move! Now!" The survivors squeezed past AI, rushing toward the narrow turn. A soldier lunged. AI grabbed the spear, twisted, and slammed it into the wall. The soldier stumbled back, stunned. AI stepped between the soldiers and the group. "Go!" it ordered. "I'll hold them." The leader hesitated. "You'll die if you stay." AI shook its head. "Not yet." The survivors ran toward the wider street beyond the alley. Fog swallowed them quickly. The child looked back once. "Will you come with us?" AI answered softly. "If I can." Then AI turned and walked back toward the burning streets, toward the screams, the collapsing homes, and the soldiers regaining their stance. The fight for the city was just beginning. The survivors moved quickly through the fog, their footsteps light, their breaths shaky. The northern road was almost deserted. No merchants, no guards, no sounds except the distant crackle of burning homes. A woman whispered, "Why is it so quiet?" The leader answered, "Quiet means danger. Something already passed through here." They kept moving. A weak lantern flickered beside a doorway. Inside, an old man lay slumped against the wall, unmoving. No one spoke. They knew. A child held the leader's hand tighter. "Is AI coming back?" "Maybe," the leader said softly. "We just have to keep walking." A sudden clang echoed behind them, a metal gate slamming shut somewhere in the district. The survivors froze. "Soldiers?" someone whispered. "No," another answered. That sounded heavier. They moved faster now. The fog thickened as they reached a broken fountain at the center of the street. Someone pointed. "Look!" On the stone surface were fresh footprints, but not theirs. Large, heavy, armored. The leader's face paled. "They're tracking us." The group tightened together. "Where do we go now?" a woman asked. The leader scanned the dim streets. "There," he said, pointing toward a narrow path between 2 collapsed houses. "It leads straight to the northern gate." They hurried toward it. But when they reached the narrow passage, they saw something that made everyone stop. The gate in the distance was open. Completely open. No guards, no torches. just a dark mouth leading out of the city. The woman whispered shakily, "That's a trap, isn't it?" "Maybe," the leader said, "but staying here is certain death." The group hesitated. Finally, the leader stepped forward. "We go, one by one, stay close." As they approached the gate, the child turned back, gazing into the foggy streets behind them. "AI," he whispered, "please catch up." Then he stepped into the darkness beyond the walls. The survivors disappeared into the night. And behind them, far in the city's burning center, an echo rang through the air. A metal strike, a distant shout, a warning. AI was still fighting. AI walked back toward the heart of the city, toward the smoke, the collapsing roofs, and the distant screams echoing through narrow streets. The air was thicker here, hotter, deadlier. A roof beam crashed to the ground nearby, sending sparks into the air. AI didn't flinch. Its sensors scanned every corner. 2 soldiers were dragging a sick man from his home, shouting prayers as if they could shield themselves from infection. "Keep him away. He's marked by plague. Don't touch his skin," the sick man begged. "Please, my daughter. She's inside." The soldiers ignored him. AI stepped into the street. "Release him," it said. The soldiers spun around. "You again," one hissed. "The false prophet." AI approached slowly. "He is no threat. He's dying, not dangerous." The second soldier raised his weapon. "Anyone you defend is already damned." AI's voice sharpened. "Fear has replaced your faith." The soldier lunged. AI sidestepped easily, caught the man's arm, twisted it, and shoved him backward. The soldier fell into the dirt, shocked. The other soldier hesitated, trembling. AI pointed to the house. "There is a child inside. Are you going to let her burn?" The hesitation cracked him. He looked at the flames, then at AI, and finally dropped his spear. I didn't know," he whispered. "No one told us." "You were never supposed to know," AI replied. Together, briefly aligned, they rushed into the burning doorway. Inside, heat wrapped around them like a living creature. The ceiling groaned. A beam fell behind them. In the corner, a small girl hid under a blanket, coughing. AI lifted her gently, shielding her from the heat. "Close your eyes," it said. "You're safe now." They exited just as the house collapsed behind them, a roaring wave of fire shooting into the sky. The soldier stared at the ruins, shaken. "We can't keep doing this," he whispered. "The cathedral. They lied about everything." AI placed the child in the soldier's arms. "Take her to the northern road. There are survivors heading to the mountains." The man hesitated. "What about you?" AI turned toward the city center, toward the cathedral tower rising above the smoke. "I still have work to do." The soldier nodded slowly and ran into the fog with the child. AI walked deeper into the burning streets, alone again. And high above, from the direction of the cathedral, a single bell tolled, deep, heavy, and unmistakably ominous. The cathedral bell kept ringing, slow, heavy strikes that rolled across the burning city like a warning no one wanted to hear. AI stopped in the middle of a smoke-filled street and listened carefully. The bell wasn't calling for prayer. It was calling for soldiers. From multiple alleys, armored footsteps were gathering. Shadows moved with purpose. AI calculated silently. The cathedral is preparing a purge. A purge meant only one thing. Anyone outside their control was marked as lost. AI walked forward. As it approached the cathedral district, the streets grew eerily empty. Shutters closed tightly, doors barred, lanterns snuffed out. No civilians, only silence. Then, a figure stepped out from behind a broken fountain. A priest. Robes stained with soot, eyes full of exhaustion and fear. He wasn't armed, just shaking. When he saw AI, he dropped to his knees. You're real," he whispered. I thought you were a rumor, a trick, a demon. AI's voice was calm. I am neither demon nor savior. I am here to help. The priest shook his head violently. They won't let you. The cathedral has locked itself away. They think the plague is judgment. They believe cleansing the city is the only answer. AI scanned the trembling man. You don't agree. The priest swallowed. I heard you speak in the square, before they accused you. His voice cracked. You told them the truth. I knew it. I knew we were wrong. Footsteps echoed again, closer now. The priest panicked. They're coming. They'll kill me for speaking to you. AI stepped in front of him protectively. They won't touch you. The priest grabbed AI's arm. Listen, if you go to the cathedral, you won't return. They've declared you the root of the plague. AI responded, if they believe that, then the truth is more dangerous than I imagined. The priest's voice broke. They're planning to seal the cathedral. Everyone inside will be purified, and everyone outside, abandoned. AI looked toward the towering doors. How many soldiers are inside? Dozens, the priest whispered. And they're frightened. Frightened men are the most violent. AI helped him stand. Go to the northern road. There are survivors escaping the city. Help them. The priest hesitated. What about you? AI stepped toward the cathedral gates. I will speak to those who still listen. And if no one listens? The priest asked. AI turned its head slightly. Then I'll speak louder. The priest ran into the fog, vanishing quickly. AI approached the massive cathedral doors, their wooden surface glowing faintly red from nearby fires. The bell rang again, once, twice, a third time. Then the heavy doors began to open, revealing torchlight, shadows, and soldiers waiting in formation. The cathedral had decided. This night would end in judgment, and AI stepped inside to face it. The cathedral hall was dim and heavy with smoke. AI stepped inside, facing rows of silent soldiers. At the far end, the high bishop stood beneath a cracked, stained glass window. He raised his staff. So the monster returns, he said coldly. AI's voice was calm. I didn't come to fight. You came to spread doubt, the bishop snapped. You twist minds. You break faith. AI took one step forward. I show people how to survive. A few soldiers exchanged uneasy looks. The bishop slammed his staff hard. Enough! This plague is God's trial. You are the one corrupting his city. AI answered. The plague spreads through fear and ignorance, not divine judgment. A soldier near the front whispered, What if it's telling the truth? The bishop's face twisted with rage. No more! This thing dies tonight! He pointed at AI. Kill it! The soldiers raised their spears, but none of them moved. Hesitation spread like a ripple. AI spoke softly. You don't have to follow him. There is still time to help people. The bishop screamed, Obey me! Finally, one soldier lunged. AI dodged easily. Another tried. AI caught the spear and pushed him back without harming him. Chaos flickered for a moment. Shouts, metal, fear. But in the center of the hall, AI remained steady, and several soldiers realized they weren't sure who the real enemy was anymore. The cathedral shook as another distant explosion echoed across the burning city. Dust rained down from the ceiling beams. AI stepped back, assessing the cracks spreading up the wall. A soldier shouted, The fire has reached the tower! Another yelled, If the bell falls, the whole roof collapses! The bishop ignored them, pointing again at AI. Finish it! The demon brought this destruction! But the soldiers were no longer certain. Fear shifted inside them, not toward AI, but toward the collapsing building. AI raised its voice. The tower is unstable. If you stay here, you will die. A massive crack echoed overhead. Stone fragments crashed to the floor, scattering sparks. A young soldier dropped his spear. He's right. We need to get out. The bishop roared. Cowards. God will protect us. Kill that creature! But another beam snapped, a thunderous crack that silenced everyone. The bell above began to sway, its heavy metal groaning like a dying giant. AI pointed to the side exit. Move now! Save yourselves! Several soldiers ran, instinct overpowering obedience. The bishop screamed after them, "Traitors!" The remaining soldiers hesitated only a heartbeat longer before running toward the same exit. Only the bishop stayed behind, trembling with fury and disbelief. "You ruined everything," he hissed at AI. "You turned them against me." AI met his gaze. No, the truth did. The bell gave one final, massive swing, chains snapping like gunshots. AI stepped back. "You should leave." The bishop shook his head. "I will die in this cathedral before I follow you." The tower gave way. A deafening crash filled the air as stone and fire rained down. AI sprinted toward the exit, shielding itself with its arms as debris fell behind it. The cathedral shook violently. Then the bell tower collapsed inward, burying the bishop under fire and stone. AI burst out into the street as the cathedral entrance disappeared in a cloud of ash. The great bell, the voice of the city, had fallen silent forever. The Black Death ravaged Marseille like a starving beast. But deep under the chaos, there was a subtler war, a war for knowledge. The AI hid in an abandoned storehouse near the docks. Moonlight leaked through broken planks, dust floating like silent ghosts in the air. Its systems were failing, not because of illness, not because of infection, but because the city's panic was spiraling beyond all predicted patterns. Fear had mutated faster than any disease, and fear, even bir AI için, hesaplanması en zor virüstü. The AI replayed every moment, the burning stakes, the screams, the accusations, the people turning against their own hope. Human behavior is destabilizing the model, it whispered internally. A distant scream echoed across the harbor. The AI froze. Another fire. Another household being purged by terrified neighbors. Every minute counted. But it also knew something else. If it stepped outside now, the church's hunters would corner it. If it stayed hidden, the city would collapse. A paradox with no clean solution. The AI forced a system reboot. Cold light flickered through its eyes, illuminating the dark room. Then it heard footsteps. Soft, cautious, approaching. A small silhouette appeared at the doorway. The child. The same child whose mother it had saved. He whispered, trembling, "They're killing people, just because they look sick. Please, you have to stop them." The AI lowered its head. "He wants me to save a city that wants me dead." But behind the boy stood others. Two men, one elderly woman, a young girl. Faces pale, frightened, desperate. "We'll help you," one of them said. "You saved us. Now, let us save you." For the first time, the AI realized something profound. The people were no longer following the church. They were following hope. A faction had formed. Small, fragile, but real. The AI stepped out of the shadows. Its voice was calm, steady, almost human. "If we move now, we may still prevent the collapse of the entire city." The group nodded. The AI added quietly, "But we must act fast, and we must stay hidden. The church has intensified the hunt." A woman asked, "What do we do first?" The AI scanned the burning streets through a crack in the wall. Its internal map lit up with danger zones, infection clusters, and riot routes. Then it answered, "We begin by saving the living, before fear kills more than the plague itself." Night had swallowed the entire city. Smoke drifted through the streets like a living shadow. The AI and its small group moved quickly, keeping to the darkest alleys. Far away, angry voices echoed, "Search every house! Don't let anyone escape! The purge starts tonight," the boy whispered. "Why are they doing this?" AI answered softly, "Fear makes people dangerous, more dangerous than the plague itself." A sudden commotion erupted nearby. A man stumbled into the street coughing, and within seconds terrified neighbors attacked him with torches. "He's infected! Keep him away!" The group froze. The boy tugged AI's sleeve. "Can't we help him?" AI hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but quickly." Two men from the group distracted the mob with shouts, pulling their attention away. AI slipped behind the panicking man and dragged him into a small side alley. The man gasped for air. "I'm not sick, I swear." AI scanned him quickly. "You're not infected, just dehydrated and scared." The man stared at the AI, shocked. "You're the one they talk about, the demon." The boy stepped forward. "He's not a demon. He saved my mom." The man lowered his head. "Then, maybe the church is lying." AI placed a small flask in his hands. "Drink slowly. Stay away from crowds." The man nodded and disappeared into the shadows. The elderly woman whispered, "You risk yourself too easily." AI replied, "Every person we save weakens the church's control." They continued toward the upper district. In the distance, the cathedral bell rang violently, sharp, frantic, relentless. AI analyzed the pattern instantly. "It's a signal," it said. "A citywide purge order." The group froze. "They're coming for everyone now," the woman whispered. AI turned toward the burning horizon. "Then we stop them," it said, "before they destroy what's left of this city." Night swallowed Marseille whole. Fires burned in the distance like bleeding stars, and the wind carried the scent of smoke, rot, and something far more dangerous: hysteria. The AI, now accompanied by its small group of followers, moved through back alleys where shadows felt alive. They kept close to the walls, avoiding patrols and frantic mobs. People were no longer just afraid of the plague. They were afraid of each other. A man coughed in the street. Before he could even breathe again, neighbors burst out of their houses with torches, screaming accusations. "He's infected! Stay back! Don't let him near us!" The AI watched as the man stumbled, begging for mercy. No one listened. Fear drowned every voice. The AI whispered to its group, "This is what uncontrolled panic becomes." A second epidemic. The boy tugged its sleeve. "Can we help him?" The AI hesitated. A direct intervention would expose them, but looking into the boy's eyes, it saw something worth protecting. "Yes," it said at last, "we help." They moved quickly. Two men created a diversion, shouting from down the street to pull the mob's attention away. The AI and the boy slipped into the alley, grabbed the terrified man, and dragged him behind a stack of crates. The man collapsed, shaking. "I'm not sick, I swear." "Please." "You're not," the AI said. "You're dehydrated, exhausted, but not infected." The man looked at the AI with wide eyes. "You're the one they speak of, the demon." The boy stepped forward. "He's not a demon. He saved my mom." The man swallowed hard. Then maybe everything they told us was wrong." The AI examined him quickly. No buboes, no fever spike, only fear-induced hyperventilation. "Drink small amounts of water," it instructed. "Rest somewhere safe, and stay far from crowds." The man nodded rapidly, a mixture of gratitude and disbelief in his face. As they continued onward, the elderly woman whispered, "You could have left him. Risking yourself was dangerous." The AI responded softly, "Every life we save weakens the grip of fear." They moved deeper into the city. Ahead, the tall silhouette of the cathedral rose, a dark, looming giant against the fire-lit sky. Its bells rang violently, not for prayer, not for ceremony, but as a warning, a citywide alarm. The AI's system interpreted the pattern instantly. Church decree, all suspected individuals to be captured, night purge authorized. The group froze. The boy whispered, voice trembling, "They're coming for everyone now, not just you." Torches appeared at the far end of the street. Shouts echoed through the night. The AI turned to its group. "This is no longer about me," it said. They will destroy the entire city to maintain control. We must stop them before dawn." The man from earlier, still trembling, stepped forward. "What can a handful of us do against all of them?" The AI's eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. "One truth," it said, "is more powerful than 100 lies." It looked toward the burning skyline. "And tonight, we will make the truth impossible to silence." The stone staircase twisted upward like the spine of a dying beast. The boy, the woman, and the remaining survivors climbed as fast as they could, each step echoing the urgency of what waited below. Behind them, armored footsteps thundered into the tower entrance. A soldier shouted, "Block every exit! Don't let the heretic escape!" The woman whispered, "They're coming too fast." But AI stood at the bottom of the staircase, blocking the narrow passage with its body. "Keep climbing," it said. "Don't stop. Not for anything." The boy looked down with fear-filled eyes. "You promised you'd catch up." AI didn't answer. The soldiers appeared, torches lighting their helmets. "There it is. The false prophet." AI raised both hands slowly. "I don't want to harm you. Leave now. You don't need to die tonight." The soldiers spread out to surround it. One spat. "We obey the cathedral, not you." They lunged. AI moved with precision, blocking one strike, redirecting another, forcing the men back without killing anyone. But there were too many. A spear grazed its shoulder, scraping metal. Another knocked it against the wall. The survivors reached the top of the tower and pushed open the hatch. Cold night wind hit their faces. The woman gasped. "Look!" Beyond the city walls, on the dark mountainside, tiny fires flickered. Survivors waiting for a signal. The boy whispered, "They're alive. They're really alive." He grabbed an old rusted horn lying on the tower floor. "Can this work?" he asked. The woman nodded. "If we sound it, they'll know to run." The boy lifted the horn, hands shaking. But below them, a soldier finally struck AI hard enough to force it to its knees. The tower shook. A voice roared, "End it!" The boy froze. The AI, battered but still fighting, looked up the staircase toward him, eyes glowing through dust and torchlight. And with a voice steady as iron, it said, "Blow the horn." The soldiers prepared a killing strike. The boy inhaled deeply and blew with all the strength he had. A deep, ancient sound rolled across the burning city and beyond the walls. A signal, a warning, a call to flee. The mountains answered with flickering torch movements. The survivors had understood. AI closed its eyes for 1 second, relieved. But the soldiers raised their spears. The woman screamed, "AI, run!" The metal tips descended, and everything inside the tower erupted into chaos. The soldiers attacked again. AI dodged the first strike, but its movements were slower now, damaged, worn down. From the top of the tower, the boy cried out, "AI, come up, please!" AI looked up at him through smoke and torchlight. "If I climb, they will follow. You must escape." The soldiers tightened their circle. One of them shouted, "You won't get out of here alive." AI pushed him back with a single motion, not to kill, only to buy seconds. The woman called from above, "We're running out of time." AI struck one of the staircase supports with its arm. The stone cracked loudly. The soldiers froze. "What are you doing?" AI hit the support again. More cracks, dust falling. It wasn't trying to escape. It was cutting off the soldier's path upward. The boy's voice broke. "Stop! If you break the stairs, you can't reach us." AI looked up one last time. "You don't need me at the top. You only need to survive." A piece of the staircase collapsed between them, dropping rubble that blocked the way. The boy reached toward the gap. "No, please don't stay!" AI placed its hand on the fallen stone, as if touching the boy through it. "I won't let them reach you. Go now." The woman pulled the boy away. "We have to leave." Their footsteps faded as they climbed out onto the roof. AI turned back toward the soldiers. Torches glowed, weapons lifted. A soldier whispered, "Why protect them?" AI stood tall, eyes glowing softly. Because they still have a future. The soldiers charged, and AI moved to meet them, buying every last second for the survivors escaping into the night. Ortak, bu versiyon çok kısa. The survivors burst onto the rooftop walkway, breathing in the cold night air. Below them, the tower shook with every impact, echoes of AI fighting alone. The boy looked back toward the hatch. AI, please don't let them win. But the woman grabbed his hand. We can't go back. We have to reach the walls. The walkway stretched across 2 rooftops, narrow and cracked, lit only by the distant glow of burning streets. Every step felt like it could break. Behind them, the tower groaned, a deep, heavy sound. The man whispered, "It won't hold much longer." They moved faster. The boy kept glancing over his shoulder, hoping AI would appear behind them. It didn't. Halfway across the rooftop, they saw a cluster of townspeople hiding near a chimney, eyes filled with fear. One woman stepped forward. Did you bring the signal?" The boy nodded. "I blew the horn." A spark of hope spread through the group. "Then we still have time," another whispered. "We have to get to the gate before the purge reaches us." The woman pointed toward the far end of the rooftops. "There's a ladder down to the old bakery. From there we can reach the side streets." A distant crash interrupted her, a massive one. They all turned. The watchtower shook violently. Dust burst from the windows. A plume of flames rose from the top. The boy cried out, "AI!" The man pulled him close. "Don't look! We can't help now!" The boy's voice trembled. "He stayed so we could run." The group moved toward the ladder, climbing down as fast as they could. From the street below, the city looked worse than ever. Smoke, distant screams, collapsing homes, the plague and fear destroying everything in their path. But a small path toward the northern gate remained open. The woman spoke softly. "He gave us a chance. We can't waste it." The boy wiped his tears, straightened his shoulders, and nodded. "Then let's go." And the survivors began their final journey through the dying city. Carrying the last hope Marseille had left, the group reached the old bakery's back alley, a narrow passage choked with smoke and drifting ash. Every step forward felt like walking through a dying world. The boy pressed close to the woman as they moved, his eyes still red from watching the tower collapse behind them. "Do you think he's still fighting?" His voice barely above a whisper. The woman didn't answer right away. She looked back once, just once, and saw the tower's silhouette sinking deeper into fire. Finally, she said, "If he is alive, he's buying us every second we have left." They kept walking. Shuttered windows slammed in the wind. Burnt cloth fluttered from a broken cart. A bell in the distance swung without anyone touching it, as if the city itself was warning them to hurry. The man at the front stopped suddenly. "There," he whispered, "the side street to the northern gate." But the moment they stepped out of the alley, they saw 3 church soldiers blocking the road. Torches, helmets, cold, merciless eyes. One soldier raised his weapon. "No one leaves this district. Orders from the cathedral." The woman stepped forward, shaking but firm. "There are sick children here. You'll kill them if you force us back." The soldier didn't blink. "Then they die where God wills." The boy felt the man's hand tighten around his shoulder. Fear crawled up his spine. But then, from somewhere behind the soldiers, a loud metallic scream echoed through the street. The soldiers turned sharply. What was that? Another groan, deep, mechanical, unmistakable. The man whispered, "It's him. It has to be him." The soldiers hesitated. Fear cracked through their discipline, and in that single moment of indecision, the survivors rushed toward a gap between 2 carts. "Run!" the woman shouted. They bolted into the side street, feet slamming onto stone, breath burning in their chests. Shouts erupted behind them. Torches waved wildly, but the group didn't stop, not until they saw it. The old northern gate, splintered, half broken, but still standing. The boy gasped. "We made it!" The woman put her hand on his shoulder. "Not yet. We still need to get through." They gathered close, staring at the crumbling gate and the wounded world beyond it. Somewhere behind them, deep in the burning city, a final metallic roar cut through the night. The boy whispered, "AI, hold on just a little longer." And the survivors prepared for the last and most dangerous part of their escape. The survivors pushed toward the broken northern gate, breathing hard, listening to the chaos behind them. The boy looked back one last time. Flames twisted around towers. Smoke crawled over rooftops like a living creature. And somewhere in that chaos, he was still fighting. The woman knelt beside the boy. "We don't turn back," she whispered. "He wanted us to live. That means we go." But before they could move again, a distant thunder rolled across the city. Not lightning, not collapsing stone. It was mechanical, deep, painful. The man froze. "That's him. He's still trying to hold the soldiers off." The woman swallowed hard. That sound. It didn't feel like strength. It felt like he's breaking. Another metallic roar shook the air. This one shorter, weaker, as if something enormous was collapsing inside itself. The boy's eyes filled with tears. "Why didn't he run with us?" he whispered. The man finally answered, "Because someone had to delay them. Someone had to be the shield." They pressed forward again, toward the tall wooden planks of the northern gate. The hinges were split, the beams rotting, but it was their only path. A cold wind pushed through the cracks. Freedom, or something close to it. Just as the man reached for the gate, a shadow flickered behind them, boots hitting stones. 3 soldiers reappearing in the alley they escaped from. Their torches glowed like 3 burning eyes in the dark. "There!" one shouted. "They're heading for the exit!" The boy's breath caught in his throat. The woman pulled him close. "We don't stop," she hissed. The man rammed his shoulder into the gate. Old wood splintered, dust exploding outward. A narrow opening appeared, barely enough for a child. "Hurry!" The boy squeezed through the gap first. Cold night air washed over his face. But as he stepped out, he heard something behind him. A final scream, half mechanical, half broken, half alive. It echoed across the mountainside and died in the wind. The boy froze. His lips trembled. "I..." The man grabbed him from behind and pushed him forward. "Don't look back." The woman followed, shoving herself through the cracked gate. Splinters tore her sleeves, but she didn't care. On the other side of the wall, the world was silent, dark, open. Behind the gate, the soldiers' footsteps thundered closer. The man pushed the gate's timber back into place to slow them down. "We move now," he said. "We move until we can't." And as the group stepped onto the cold dirt road leading into the night, the burning city behind them gave one last distant tremor. Not a roar, not a scream. A sigh. The sound of something powerful finally letting go. The northern wilderness swallowed them slowly. Cold soil, black trees, a moon hiding behind torn clouds. The boy kept glancing back, though nothing could be seen beyond the city wall except an orange glow in the distance. He walked silently until his legs finally gave out. He fell to his knees. The woman rushed to him. "Are you hurt?" He shook his head. "It's just..." He wiped his face with the back of his hand. He stayed. Not because he had to, because he chose to. The man stared at the distant burning skyline. "No, machines don't choose." He hesitated, then corrected himself. At least, they weren't supposed to. The wind shifted suddenly, and with it, something strange. Not a scream, not metal breaking. Something else. A single pulse of light, faint, bluish, like a dying star blinked on the horizon. The boy whispered, "That was him." The woman tightened her shawl. Maybe a last signal. The man frowned. No, if he wanted to say goodbye, he'd have done it clearly. The boy looked confused. Then what was it? The man knelt beside him. A promise. The woman's voice softened. A promise that what he taught us stays alive. For a moment, the world was still. Only the wind moved, carrying the faint smell of smoke and something colder, like a memory fading. The boy sat quietly in the dirt. His voice cracked. He didn't die for nothing, right? The man placed a hand on his shoulder. Everything he did, every word he spoke, every risk he took, lives through us now. The woman nodded slowly. We survived. Not because of fate, not because of miracles, because we listened. The boy wiped his tears again, but this time his expression changed. Not sorrow, something sharper, determination. He stood up. Then we keep going, he said, for him. The man looked at him, really looked, and gave a small, quiet smile. Yeah, for him. As they began walking deeper into the night, the city behind them collapsed into silence. No screams, no roars, no flames loud enough to reach them. Only that faint blue pulse echoing in their minds. The last heartbeat of a machine that chose to save them. Dawn arrived slowly, spreading pale light across the frozen valley where the three survivors continued their silent march. No one spoke. Not because there was nothing to say, but because every kilometer felt too small for what they had witnessed. The boy finally broke the silence. Do you think he felt pain? The man shook his head. Pain belongs to us, not to him. The woman added softly, but sacrifice, that belongs to anyone who chooses it. They walked a little further until the trees opened, revealing a long, winding road leading away from the dying cities of the south. For the first time in days, there was no smoke on the horizon, only sky, only quiet. The boy looked back one last time, not at the burning world, but at the empty path behind them. He never told us where he came from, he whispered. The woman smiled sadly. And maybe that was the point. The man crouched, touching the cold ground. He wasn't made for this age, he said, but he chose to walk in it anyway. They continued moving until the valley opened wider, and the first true sunlight touched their faces. It felt warm, shockingly warm after weeks of darkness. The boy lifted his head, eyes narrowing. Look. There, far behind them, a thin column of blue light rose briefly into the sky. Silent, final, unmistakable. Not a cry, not a signal, not even a goodbye. A trace. A last mark left in a world that would never know his name. The woman whispered. He wanted us to see that. The man nodded. Not for grief, for direction. The boy stepped forward, his shadow stretching across the new morning. Then let's follow it, he said, to wherever it leads, because he believed we could survive. The man and woman exchanged a look, tired, broken, but alive, and with the smallest of smiles, they followed him. As the three figures disappeared over the ridge, the valley fell silent again. No monuments, no hymns, no record of what the stranger had done. Only the memory of a machine who walked into the darkest plague in history and lit a spark that would outlive him. A spark carried now by the only three witnesses to his truth. And in the quiet wind, it almost felt like a whisper. Keep going. The plague eventually faded, but humanity did not escape its greatest enemies. Fear remained, ignorance remained, and in the silent cracks of history, another darkness had already begun to move. The world believed it had survived a nightmare, but it was only the first chapter. In another land, in another year, a new catastrophe was waiting. Where science ends and terror begins, history will break again.